So today the unloved daily driver gets some attention. I actually had a headlight bulb stop working. And the last couple Fiat 500s I've done HID conversions. Obviously this thing already has the light bar for some additional accessory brightness. However, the standard bulbs, both high and low, are a 9012, I believe, which is essentially a 9006. For those of you familiar with generic bulbs, what this car does is it just has one bulb for high and low, and then it uses a magnetic cutoff solenoid to basically just take away the cutoff from the projector. Sorry, to allow the full beam to operate instead of just half. So, like I said, these are 9012 9012 bulbs, I believe. Is that right? Yes. And that's just the 9006. I don't know why they label them differently, but it's just more expensive. So what I usually end up doing is buying a cheapo HID kit, which I have here somewhere. It might still be in the car. Nope, I took it out. So I got a bunch of fun stuff. Oil change things for the both the S54 M3s. I actually have an Alpha N tuned computer I bought locally from Fluid Motor Union, so I'm gonna try that and see if it works. Bunch more Blackstone containers, some stuff for the new Element. But anyway, this is the piece that matters for us. This is just, you know, one of these $25 eBay HID 55 watt kits. You can do 35 as well, but I live in an area where it gets dark once in a while, so there are the cheapo ballasts, already with a 9006 connector on them, which is kind of nice. And then it comes with these. So the bulb is in here. I recommend leaving those on until you actually put them in, because if you touch the bulb with your hand, they'll explode. The oil on your hand, when it makes contact with the glass, it just boils it, and then it bubbles the glass, and bad things happen, yada, yada, yada. Just don't touch them. So first order of business, honestly, is make sure you've got a Dremel, because what you're going to have to do is the ballasts sit outboard of the headlight enclosure, and you're going to have to make a hole big enough for this little rubber boot thing to fit through. So once you've done that, you're going to have to modify this a little bit just to get the ballasts powered as well. Probably, maybe not. We'll see how that goes. But first order of business is to make a hole that is roughly, let's say 3/4 of an inch with a Dremel or something, right in the middle, and then that'll allow us to go to the next step. So if you've got a hole that looks like that, should be doing pretty well. Next step is going to be very, very carefully take the styrofoam off and install that into the actual headlight housing, and then we'll get ready to wire in the ballast and everything else. Okay, so what I've done here is I've fed the original 9012 connector out through a slight cut here. So that's kind of what we look like all finished up. Looks fairly clean. The only thing is the plug, you can plug it in backwards accidentally, so I'm gonna fire up the car now and make sure they work. So the headlights are on right now, and they're not on, so I do have the plugs in backward. Well, that's all it took. Just flipping the plugs around so the little tab is facing away from the little catch. Should be fine. If you want, you can run a zip tie around it just to make sure it doesn't unplug itself, but there we are. And I actually went with 3000K, probably not good for you guys, but I like how they look, and I've got that like 6000K light bar, so JDM. Yeah, that's a $25 way to get much better headlights. And the beauty is, they still work with the high beams, because it's a completely different system. So there you go. Hopefully that was a little bit informative or helpful, but just figured I'd let you guys know what I'm doing. Well, my old gas Fiat 500, I had a dash cam, and I actually really kind of miss having it because I get cut off a lot in a tiny car. So what I did is I went ahead and bought another one. It's just a basic Apeman front and rear. They've actually updated it a little bit. It's nicer than it used to be. Yeah, it's updated a little bit more than it used to be. It's got a little bit bigger screen. I don't know, we'll see if the image quality is any better. I mean, I certainly didn't have a problem with it before. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and stick this thing on the windshield, leave enough room for these plugs at the top to power it. And then of course for the rear camera as well, since that uses basically a standard double head 1/8 inch mini jack. So there we have it installed, more or less. I'm not gonna power it off a power bank, obviously, but I'm also not using the crappy thing that it came with. All I did was run it up in the headliner, right over this trim piece here, down the rubber, through there, into there, down through behind the plastic. Then I moved back to the rubber, came up all the way to here, ran it up in there. All the way through there, coiled up a bunch of cord right behind there, transitioned back to the weather strip, which looks like it did a mediocre job, and then jumped up just enough and mounted it right there. So there you have it, a very basic front and rear dash cam install for a Fiat 500. Also, I lost part of my sticker, whoops. Yeah, if you get cut off as much as I do in your Fiat, this might not be a bad investment, just in case somebody brake checks you or you end up in a bad situation that wasn't necessarily your fault.